In order. Thank you. First, on behalf of the elected officials, we have Representative Holder-Winfield.
Thank you.
Excuse me, and I apologize. Senator Looney just reminded me we've agreed to 3 minutes. Please proceed.
Thank you, Co-Chairs Looney and Minor. I just want to come to bring a perspective of someone from representing an urban city. Many people know that December 19th, this General Assembly got together and did some business for the state, but also memorialized the children in Newtown. And I had a hard time with that, so after we finished, I had to excuse myself and go into our caucus room and shed some tears. And then compose myself and come back out and do that business. Similarly, when we talk about the things that happen in cities like mine in New Haven and cities like Bridgeport and Hartford, I've actually shed tears over the things that happened there. And so I want to talk a little bit about an experience I had with a young person there. And this was a child, a 15-year-old boy. And I remember being in a room with him, and I remember distinctly his hands and what he was doing with his hands. He was twisting them. And he twisted them this way and that way, and he shifted his weight on his feet back and forth from left to right. And this young man attempted to speak, and I remember looking at his hands as the voice finally came out, and it came out low and cracked, but I remember looking at his hands, and it reminded me of a knotted rope. And when he spoke to us about his cousin, who had been shot the night before. And his cousin was shot by a handgun, and he told us about the bullet that ripped through the night, that ripped through his cousin, and ripped through his life. His cousin had spent a lot of time keeping this young man off the streets. Now, his cousin had spent a lot of time on the streets, but recognized the problems with the streets. So he had been the one to keep the kid off the streets. And the young man came to us, and we were a room full of people who had heard stories like this before, activists, and people who had spent time in prison who were trying to do the right thing, and told us about what happened in his life. This young man hadn't done anything wrong. Oftentimes when we talk about what happens in the cities, we talk about the people who are doing the wrong things on the street. But this is the reality of gun violence in New Haven, Hartford, and Bridgeport. I'll tell you the number is 88 in 2008, 76 in 2009, 101 in 2010, and 102 in 2011. Those are the gun deaths in this state. We're not talking about the people who've actually just been shot and survived. We're talking about 100 people, 88 people. We're talking a lot of people. And if you would ask me, I would say that that's a slow, banal mass killing. And it happens over and over and over again. And I can wrap up if you want me to. My point is that we need to do something about this. And while we have the opportunity, because unfortunately we're here for what has happened in Newtown, we need to be thinking deeply about this. We need to think about what causes these situations. And government has a role in doing something about what happens here. So I would be happy to talk about the AR-15 and the long guns, but I think it's important that we start talking about what happens in these cities that isn't the AR-15, that isn't the long guns, that has to do with compression of communities, that has to do with school systems, that has to do with a lot of things that are a lot more difficult to put our hands on. And yes, it has to do with gun trafficking. We talk about what Senator Feinstein's bill is, but we forget there's a gun trafficking prevention act that no one is talking about right now. And I would suggest that this state, with the attention that's on the state, if we chose to, if this committee chose to say that we need to be looking at that, people would look at it differently. So I'm not going to take up most of your time. I'm just suggesting that we've had many opportunities. It's not for lack of opportunity that we find ourselves here. It's for lack of actually having done something. And so I came here today to give you a little bit of a perspective of someone who represents one of these urban cities, and to implore this committee to think a little bit about the issue of urban gun violence. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Representative.